The topic is biopsy. Biopsy, it is a Greek word. Bio means life and opsy is to look. So to look into the living organism's tissue is known as biopsy. Rook and Johann Wirth in 1817 Berlin they first introduced this concept of biopsy, and in 1889 Emark he emphasized on the confirmation of the diagnosis via biopsy. So you are diagnosing a particular lesion with the help of this biopsy. So it is a very commonly used diagnostic aid in your lesions in the detection of what exactly the lesion is. So the term biopsy, it is most often indicates the removal of the suitably representative tissue. So you're removing a tissue from a living subject. So this is a very important term, that is from a living subject, because in this, so biopsy is when you're removing a tissue from a living organism. But when you remove a tissue from a dead organism, that is known as autopsy. So this is a very important word that you need to write in your exam. That is, it is the removal of the suitably representative tissue from a living subject for the histological microscopic evaluation and the analysis to obtain the diagnosis. So you're doing this, so you're removing the tissue for the histological and microscopic examination to obtain the diagnosis of whatever the lesion is. So it is important for the clinician to obtain a proper specimen from the lesion. So it is very important that you should, like when you are removing the tissue, it should be proper for the evaluation and the final diagnosis. So first, what you're going to do is you're going to detect a lesion. So there is detection of this lesion through health history of the lesion. You're going to properly examine the lesion, the clinical examination through radiographs and various laboratory examinations. And after that, you come onto a differential diagnosis that yes, this can be the cases. So this lesion, it can be of different. So you're doing that differentiate. You are coming to a differential diagnosis. After that, there are two things that can happen. So first is you're keeping that patient on observation or the non-surgical treatment for 10 to 14 days. You're going to give some medications and you're going to see how the patient responds to that particular medication. So that is a non-surgical, and you're just going to observe it. So there can be two things. If on this observation, there can be the patient, he can improve, or there is no improvement. And now after the differential diagnosis, the other thing is the lesion, it is so obvious that you are suspecting the malignancy for that lesion. So for that you detect, so you're making a decision for the biopsy. Like you know that this is, like you can easily clearly say that this case is of a malignancy. So for that you're making the decision that you need to do a biopsy. And if now in this scenario, if you see there is no improvement, then it goes for decision of biopsy. Then the decision of biopsy is you're going to determine how difficult the biopsy procedure is, how difficult that lesion is. So now depending on that, you're going to see whether you need to call a specialist or you can perform the biopsy yourself. Now, if you can perform the biopsy yourself, there are again two outcomes. The lesion, it needs no further treatment, and the lesion, it needs further treatment. What it means is, now in your biopsy there are two types of biopsy, that is incisional and excisional. Excisional, it is a type of biopsy, it is a type of curative biopsy in which with the help of this removal you're actually removing the whole lesion and it becomes a treatment in itself. So this lesion, it needs no further treatment. So such small lesion, then they need no treatment further. And if it is a very big lesion, so that lesion, it needs further treatment. Now after that you're going to evaluate the difficulty of that treatment. So first, if it is easy to treat, then you can treat yourself, and if it is not easy, then you can refer to a specialist. And after all these things, there is the patient's follow-up. So this is when you're going to decide when you need to go for the biopsy. What are the aims of it? So first is to establish the diagnosis of the lesion. So this is the main important aim, that you're diagnosing the lesion through the histological examination. The next is to grade the tumor. Now your tumor, it has this grading system. So this biopsy, it helps to grade the tumor, whether it is grade 1, 2, 3 or 4, like how severe the tumor is. The next is to grade or to detect the receptors. Now these aims, they are not only focusing on the oral surgery, but these aims are in general focusing all over your body. So to detect the receptor, it means to detect the estrogen and the progesterone receptor, which is very essential in the diagnosis of the breast cancer. Now this estrogen and the progesterone receptors, they are present in the cancer cells. So what happens is when you're taking out the tissue, now biopsy is taking out the tissue. So when you take out the tissue through biopsy of that cancer, then what happens is now you will see this receptors through the immunohistochemistry like studies, then you can see this receptors. So this is how it works for this to detect this receptors of your estrogen and progesterone. The next is to carry out the mass screening for the community based detection program. Then there are various community based detection program which goes on for the screening of the oral cancers. So to carry those screening, you can like, so this becomes a aim of biopsy. The next is to detect the enzymes and the antigens. The next is to monitor the treatment reoccurrence prognosis for the research purpose. So you are monitoring how the treatment is going on, whether there are any chances of reoccurrence, or how the prognosis is, whether it is poor or it is good, but it is for the research purposes. The next can be the microbiological studies and for the medical legal purposes. The lesions that raise the suspicion for the malignancy. So there are various lesions that helps us to like suspect whether it is a malignant lesion. There are these lesions. So first is the specific red and white lesion, which can be erythroplasia. So the lesion, it is totally red, or it has a speckled red appearance. So that can be a lesion that can be suspected as a malignant. So this is a erythroplakia. So the next one is the ulceration. So if the lesion it is ulcerated, so over here the lesion it is ulcerated or it presents as an ulcer, it can suspect. So it can be suspected as a malignancy. Now the duration. So if the lesion it has persisted for more than 2 weeks, that is your 14 days, so it can be a malignancy case. It is not a pre-malignant lesion, so it is a malignancy case. So you can like easily detect that yes, it can be a malignant. Then the growth rate. So the lesion, it exhibits rapid growth. So it can be a malignant. It is not benign in that case. Then the bleeding. So the lesion, it bleeds on even gentle manipulation. Next is the induration. So the lesions and the surrounding tissue, it is firm to the touch. So when you're touching the lesion, you will see the part or that lesion, it is firm on touching. Next is a fixation. So the lesion, it feels attached to the adjacent structures. Now you have seen all the differences between the malignant and the benign tumors in your oral, in your general surgery. So so if the lesion it is fixed to the underlying tissue or the underlying structure, it means it is a malignant lesion. What are the indications of biopsy? So first is if there is a persistent hyperkeratosis changes in the surface tissue. So hyperkeratosis is nothing but there is a microscopic layer of thickened parakeratin. So your parakeratin layer, it is thickened, and if it is persistent for a longer time, for that case you need to do the biopsy. The next is the lesion that interfere with the local function. So if the local function like mastications or you are unable to open the mouth, so in that case, the lesion it is interfering with the local function. So in that case, you need to do the biopsy. Then any inflammatory lesion that does not respond to the local treatment. Now we have seen we are keeping the patient on observation, and there is like it is a short case of that it is a malignancy. Then you directly do the biopsy. But if you're keeping the patient on like non-surgical treatment and you're doing the observation, and if you see there are no changes or the patient is not responding even after 10 to 14 days to that treatment, non-surgical treatment, then you're going for the biopsy. The next is if the bone lesions, they are not specifically identified by the clinical and the radiographic finding. In that case, you are doing the biopsy to see which type of bone lesion it is. Then any lesion that persists for more than 2 weeks with no apparent etiology basis. So if you're seeing a lesion which is more than 2 weeks, so it is persisting for more than 2 weeks, and in that case you're not seeing what the exact etiology is, so in that case you need to do the biopsy to see what exactly that lesion is. Then any lesion that has a characteristics of malignancy, so that is going for biopsy. Then inflammatory changes of the unknown cause that persist for the long periods. Then if there are any persistent swelling or the mass which are either visible or palpable beneath the relatively normal tissue, so in that case also like your tissue norm, so you'll see there's a tissue which is present normally, but beneath that normal tissue you'll see there's a swelling or a mass which is present. So in that case also you are doing this biopsy. When is the oral biopsy not needed? So it is not needed in the normal structure. Then there is no need of biopsy for the inflammatory or the infectious lesion that responds to the local treatment. Now when you're keeping the patient on local treatment, so when the patient responds to it, so there is no need to do the biopsy. So there can be like pericoronitis, gingivitis, or periodontal abscesses. Then no incisional biopsy, it should be performed on suspected angiomatous lesions. You are not doing biopsy, no incisional biopsy is done on angiomatous lesion because they can spread. So you're not doing oral biopsy in such cases. Now, what are the contraindications? The first is when the general health condition of the patient is very poor, then when the acute virulent pyogenic infection is present. So if there is infection, acute infection which is present, in that case you're not doing the biopsy. So it is contraindicated. Then the next contraindication is pulsating lesion, those of the vascular nature. The pigmented lesion like melanoma, it should not be biopsied as it may transform into a malignant by cutting through it, or it may spread to the distinct organs. So because of that, in melanoma, you are not doing the biopsy. The biopsy, it is not advised in case of multiple neurofibromas due to the risk of neurosarcomatous transformation or in the tumors of the major salivary gland. Such biopsy, it should be performed by the specialized surgeons, and you're not doing it in general. So in such cases, like if the patient have multiple neurofibromas, so this is the case in this picture, there is this multiple neurofibromas in which you're not doing the biopsy. Now, what are the steps of biopsy? First is you're going to select the area. The next is you're going to prepare for the surgical field for the excision of that, the removal of the tissue. Then you're giving the local anesthesia. Then you're going to incise it. Then you're going to handle the specimen. Now it is the removal of the tissue for the diagnosis. You need to handle the specimen properly. And then last is the suturing of that wound. Now you have made the incision, so you need to suture it. So these are the steps for the biopsy, which I'm going to explain in depth how it works. So how the biopsy is actually done. Now, what are the classifications of it? So, according to the procedures, so first is features of the lesion. So, it can be direct and indirect. So, direct is when the lesion it is located on the oral mucosa and can be easily assessed with a scalpel from the mucosal surface. So, that is your direct. You can directly see that lesion, or you can directly see that lesion and you're doing the biopsy on it. Now, indirect is when the lesion it is covered by a apparently normal oral lesion. So when the lesion it is covered by the normal oral lesion, and beneath that normal lesion you have some swelling or a mass, so that becomes your indirect biopsy, in which you cannot see that lesion properly, or you can not directly see that lesion, and that becomes the indirect biopsy. Now, according to the area of the surgical removal, so it is incisional and excisional. So incisional, now incision is when you're giving a cut, and excisional is when you're excising whole of the tissue. Excisional biopsy is when the tissue or the lesion it is very small, so it is very small in size. So excisional biopsy is such type of biopsy which is a diagnostic and even the curative type of biopsy. So incisional is it consists of the removal of a representative sample of the lesion and the normal adjacent tissue. So you're removing the like a smaller part of the lesion, and even with that you're removing the adjacent normal tissue in order to make a definitive diagnosis before the treatment. So that is your incision. You're just making an incision. You're just taking a smaller part of that lesion and then you're suturing that area again. Then the excisional is aimed at the complete surgical removal of the lesion. You're completely removing that lesion. So because of that, it becomes a curative type of biopsy for the diagnostic and the therapeutic purposes. So this procedure, it is elective when the size and the location of the lesion, it allows for the complete removal. This is the main point that you remember, that is the incisional and the excisional. Now by the timing, so when you're going to perform this biopsy is pre-operative, intraoperative or post-operative. Then the purpose of this biopsy is whether it is for diagnosis or for the experiment, that can be your research purposes. So what is the purpose of this biopsy? So they are classified, so the biopsy, they are classified on these four types. Now, what are the types of biopsy? So these all are the various types of biopsy. First is the surgical, in which there are incisional, excisional, and punch. The next is the fine needle aspiration cytology and CT guided FNSC, that is a fine needle aspiration cytology. Then there can be exfoliative cytology, brush biopsy, frozen section, cone needle, then suction assisted core needle, and laser biopsy. So these are the various types of biopsy which I'm going to explain one by one. And most important ones are incisional, excisional, punch, FNSC, then exfoliative, brush, and all this first 7 or 8 are the most important. So laser biopsy is a newer technology which is not that much used, but yes, it is a very newer technology and it is also expensive. Then there are this suction assisted. So these are like various assisted. So there are various assisted which I'm going to explain now. So what are the mass screening method? Now we have seen in the AIIMS for the mass screening, we are doing this biopsy. So there are various methods that can be exfoliative cytology, then toluidine blue detection test, then oral CDX brush biopsy, and light based detection system. which are Wellscope, Basilite Plus, or Microlux BL. So these are like the various mass screening method, and they are used as adjuvant to your biopsy, but they are not the option to biopsy. It's not like you can do all this procedure and you're not doing the biopsy. But these procedures, they are very quick, and you can do this procedure when you are doing a mass screening program, like in the public health programs you're doing. So, and at that time you're doing all these programs or all this method because they are very easy to do and they are very fast to do. So they are just the adjuvant to your biopsy, but they are not the substitute for your biopsy. So it's like you can do exfoliative cytology, and after that you're confirming the case with the help of biopsy only. The first is the exfoliative cytology. So what is cytology? Cytology, it is the branch of pathology which is dealing with the diagnosis at the cellular level, at the cell level. So it is the study of the morphology of the exfoliated cell. So it is exfoliated cytology. As you're studying the morphology of this exfoliated cells. Cytology is study of the cells, and exfoliated is you're studying the morphology of the exfoliated cell under the microscope when you're using a special stain, but it cannot be used as a diagnostic procedure. It is only used as an adjuvant to the biopsy. Now I have said this. So you cannot use this exfoliative cytology only a sole type of diagnostic aid. You have to use biopsy. So it is an adjuvant to biopsy. So the commonly used stain, or the stain which is used in this exfoliative cytology, is the PAP stain. PAP is because the person who gave this stain was George Papanicolaou. So I don't know how to pronounce it properly. So it is Papanicolaou, and this stain, it is given after the name of this person who actually invented this stain. So in this exfoliative cytology, what you're doing is you're just going to remove the superficial type of cells. And now you know in your epithelium you have superficial layer, intermediate layers, and this basal layer, and this is your connective tissue. So in this exfoliative cytology, you're just removing the superficial layer of cells, and then you're going to stain it with this PAP stain, and then you're going to see it under the microscope. So what are the indications of it? So the first is the mucosal layer that cannot be biopsied. So in that case, you can use the cytology, exfoliative cytology. The follow-up of the patient with prior diagnosis. So you have already done the diagnosis of the pre-malignant and the malignant mucosal lesion, but you are doing the follow-up of that patient. So in that case, you're using this exfoliative. You're not actually removing the tissue, you're just removing the cells of that particular lesions. Then the individual who are debiliated to assess the oral candidiasis and the viral infection. So there are various people who are debiliated. So in that case, you're using this exfoliative cytology then to study and confirm the false or the negative biopsy result. So if you get a result, biopsy result as false or negative, so to confirm like whether it is actually negative, so to confirm it, you are using the exfoliative cytology. The technique is, first you're going to clean the surface of the lesion with moistened tongue blade or this cement spatula. Then you're going to scrape the surface of the lesion many times in one direction only. So you're scraping the lesion in one direction multiple times. The material it is obtained, it is spread in a rotary motion on a clean glass slide. So you're like spreading whatever. So now you have scraped the lesion. So you would have get some material. So now what you're doing is now you're spreading that lesion or that material what you have got on your spatula or these tongue blade on the glass slide in the rotary motion, and you're making a thin uniform smear. Then you're going to keep it in the jar which is containing a fixative, for you're going to fix that material. You need to do this because then the cells it can die, so you need to fix it with the alcohol for 15 to 30 minutes. Then you're going to stain the smear with the PAP stain, and then you're going to see it under the microscope. This is how the technique is for the exfoliative cytology. Now what are the advantages? First, it is developed as a diagnostic screening procedure. Now as I said, you can use this because this procedure is very easy to perform. You're not actually doing some like biopsy, you're not removing a tissue, you're just like scraping that area and you like spread it on the glass slab. So this is, the procedure is very easy, and because of that it can be used in screening procedures to monitor a large tissue areas for dysplastic changes, and it may be helpful with monitoring post radiation changes, herpes or pemphigus. The disadvantages is it is not very reliable because it may have many false positives. Then expertise in oral cytology is not widely available, and because of that, this exfoliative cytology, because of like you do not have many expertise in this oral cytology, and because of that there are many problems with this exfoliative cytology procedure. The study of cell, it is reported as one of the five following. So it can be any of this class. So you have like seen it under the microscope. So you are seeing which actually class it is. So first is class 1 when it indicates the normal cells. So it is normal. Class 2 is atypical. It indicates the presence of mild atypia, but there is no evidence of malignant change. So in this case, you will see there is no ulceration in your epithelium, because of which the cells it goes into the connective tissue. So like there are various epithelial changes you have seen in your oral pathology, in which there are this mild, moderate, and severe dysplasia. So in this class 2, you will see there is presence of only mild atypia. So there are only changes in the cells. So in that case, you won't see there are any malignant changes. So this is class 2. Now class 3 is intermediate, in which the cells they displace wider atypia, but maybe it may be suggestive of cancer, but they are not very clear cut, and it may represent precancerous lesion or carcinoma in situ. So in this case, biopsy is recommended. So when it is a class 3 type of, so when you're seeing it under the microscope and when you see it is a class 3, so in that case, you're recommending the biopsy to be done to like actually diagnose whatever the lesion properly is. Then class 4, it is suggestive of cancer. Class 3 is a precancerous lesion or carcinoma in situ. Then class 4, it is suggestive of cancer. So a few malignant cells with many cells having borderline characteristics are seen in class 4. So in this, biopsy is mandatory. And then class 5 is when the patient is positive for cancer. So in that, there is obvious malignant cells. So in that case also, the biopsy, it is mandatory. So these all are the various classes that you see after doing the exfoliative cytology. The next is the oral CDX brush biopsy. So now this brush biopsy, it is a hybrid of fine needle aspiration biopsy and the exfoliative cytology. Now we have seen in exfoliative cytology, we are just removing the superficial layer of the cells. But now in this brush biopsy, what you're doing is you're going to remove all these three layers of your epithelium, that is your superficial, intermediate, and basal. So it is a complete transepithelial tissue sample. So it was introduced in 2000 and it is very reliable. It is non-invasive, simple. It is a chair-side, painless procedure to detect the precancerous lesion and the early stage of the oral cancer. So this is nothing but your brush biopsy. So in this, now as the name says, this is brush biopsy. So you're using a brush in this. So it is a screening test. Here, microscopic examination is done using a specially designed nylon oral brush. So you're using this specially designed nylon oral brush, and then you're doing this diagnosis of whatever the lesion is. So it is usually used to detect the precancerous lesion and the early stage of oral cancer. Now, what is the method? So now the kits, they are provided by the company, and the company, so they have this name. So these are your kits. So these have this name. So this is the oral CDX test kit. So they are provided by the company. The oral biopsy brush, which is provided. So this brush, it has two cutting surface, the flat end of the brush and the circular border. So these are your circular border and this is the flat end of the brush. Then the cutting edge, it is pressed against the lesion firmly and it is rotated 5 to 10 or more times in a clockwise fashion. Now this is a brush. So over here, now you're going to rotate this brush 5 to 10 times, and that too firmly. You're going to rotate it on that lesion. The cellular material which is entrapped on the brushes, on the bristles of that brush, it is collected and it is then transferred onto the glass slide. So when you're like moving, or when you're moving this brush in the circular pattern over that lesion, so you will see the cellular material, it gets entrapped in this bristles of the brush. So then you're going to transfer it on the glass slide. Then the cells, they are fixed on the slide using the alcohol fixation, and they are sent to the oral scan laboratory for the computer image analysis, that is the assisted identification and the display of the abnormal cell. So this is how your oral CDX brush biopsy it works. So the printout of the color image of the cellular abnormality with an accompanying explanation is given. Now you're doing this under the like computers. So you are sending this test. So you have collected this material. So you're sending this material for the computer image analysis, and because of that you'll get a printout of color images of the cellular abnormalities, and with that you'll get the explanation. So if the positive report is obtained, then the scalpel biopsy it should be planned after that. So this is your oral CDX test kit. So oral brush biopsy instrument, it is the pre-coded glass slide and a matching coded test requisition form is present in this kit. Then the alcohol fixative pouch is present. So this is like the whole kit which is present, like the procedure which you do. So you need a fixative. Everything is present in this kit. Then pre-address container for submitting the content. So this is how your kit it looks like. Now this is also used in mass screening. Next method is this light-based detection system, which is a well scope. So this is a well scope over here. So it is a narrow emission tissue fluorescence. So it is a portable tool which is used for mass screening. So this is a tool which is used for mass screening of the oral cancer. So it emits intense blue excitation light which have a wavelength of 400 to 460 nanometer. So now you can see over here. So it is emitting this blue light which have this particular wavelength that I said, that is 400 to 460 nanometer. Then a pale green autofluorescence, it is emitted by the normal mucosa. If the tissue, it is normal. So if the mucosa, it is normal, so you will see there is this green light which is emitted by this normal tissue. Then which is seen through a narrow band filter which is incorporated into the instrument handpiece. Then abnormal atypical tissue, it appears darker than the adjacent normal tissues due to the decreased amount of normal autofluorescence. So if there is the normal tissue which is present, so it will emit this green light. And over here now you can see if there's a lesion which is present, so it will appear darker than the adjacent tissues because there's this lesion which is present. So this is a well scope which is used, which is a tissue fluorescence and a dysplastic progression, like it is a tool which is used to detect the oral cancer. So this is how it is, well scope versus the camera system. So this is how it looks. So when you're emitting the light, so the normal tissue, it will emit this green light. So this is the normal, and when you're using this well scope over here, so you'll see the normal tissue, it will emit green light. And if there's a lesion which is present, so that lesion, it will appear darker in this light based detection system. Now you can see how easy it is. So this is a well scope. Then there is a VisiLight Plus and a Microflux DL. So these are the companies that market the light-based detection tools. So these are like the various companies. So this is the company that is the Wellscope. So these are like the various companies which provide this light-based detection tools. So first, the patient is asked to rinse the mouth with 1% acetic acid, and then the inspection of the oral cavity, it is done by the blue white light. The normal epithelium, it appears light blue, while the abnormal tissue, it will appear white under the blue white light. And this feature is for the VisiLight Plus and the Microflux DL. So VisiLight and the Microflux DL, they have this blue white light. So if the tissue is normal, in that case you will see the epithelium. So if it is normal, so if the epithelium is normal, so you will see it will appear as light blue color. And if it is abnormal, so it will appear white under the blue white light. And it is, so this is also used in as a baseline screening procedure. So these are like the various mass screening procedure. And there was this another mass screening, that was this toluidine blue uh, detection test. So it is used for the detection or the clinical use for the oral dysplasia detection, in which what you're doing is you're using this toluidine blue on this particular area. So the technique of application is you ask the patient to rinse the mouth with water for 20 seconds to remove all the debris. Then 1% acetic acid, it is then applied for 20 seconds to remove all the saliva, if there is saliva which is present. So I'm talking about the toluidine blue detection test. So how it is. So the next is, so now in this you'll, so this toluidine blue, it helps in the detection of the dysplastic epithelium, whether the epithelium, it is dysplastic or it is normal. So it is so it is detected by this toluidine blue detection test. The next procedure, so the procedure, we have seen the patient is asked to rinse with the water for 20 seconds. The next is, then the 1% acetic acid, it is applied. Then you are applying the toluidine blue 1% for 20 seconds. Then again, two rinses with 1% acetic acids, they are done to reduce the extent of mechanically restrained stain. So now you have applied that stain on that area. So to remove, if there is excessive stain which is present, to remove that, you're again asking the patient to rinse the mouth with 1% acetic acid. Finally, after that, the patient, he's asked to rinse with the water. So the interpretation, it is based on the color. So if you see a dark blue or a royal navy stain, it is considered positive. If it is light blue, so if that lesion, it appears as light blue, so it is doubtful. And if there is no color on that particular lesion, that means it is negative. So this is how it works. So it is used for mass community camp screening. It is used adjuvant to the clinical examination. Then it is used to delineate the margin of the lesion and to identify the location of the biopsy, to detect the multicentric or the second tumor, and it is used to help in the follow-up of the patient. So this is all about how it works for your mass screening procedure. So these procedures are used in mass screening and they are used as an adjuvant to your normal biopsy. The next part of biopsy, it will have this FNSC, that is fine needle aspiration cytology, incisional biopsy, excisional punch, core needle frozen section, then the intraosseous and hard tissue for the bone, the closed image guided biopsy. What is this closed image? So closed image is when you're using a ultrasound or CT, MRI guided biopsy. With the help of CT, MRI, you're doing the biopsy. So those come into this closed image. The next is the principles to be followed during the biopsy procedure. That is the procedure for your biopsy in very depth, and then what are the problems or what are the artifacts in the biopsy. So about all this in depth, I'm going to cover in the next video. And in this particular video, the most important topic or the most important thing that is commonly asked is the exfoliative cytology and even the brush biopsy. All about this part of the biopsy. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much.